Welcome to Widowed Too Soon, where real-life widows and widowers come together to share their stories of survival, faith, and the journey of finding hope in the darkest of times. Whether you're newly widowed or have been on this journey for some time, each week we're here to provide you with inspiration, practical advice, and the reassurance that you are not alone. You were made to not only survive, but thrive. And now here's your host, a woman who has walked this path herself, who finds solace in writing, joy in speaking, and freedom in dancing like nobody's watching. Michelle Bader Eversole.
Welcome to Widow Too Soon. This is Michelle Bader Eversole. I am excited for another guest to be on our podcast. It has been so fun. By the time you listen to this, we'll have had several guests. I'm sure you're enjoying it. I'm getting lots of positive feedback because every person's story is so unique and every person can share something that I can't. And so I love what we're doing here in season 4 and really getting to know people. So I'm super excited to introduce you to my guest today. Her name is Dawn Hampton. How are you today, Dawn?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, Michelle.
Yes, thanks for being here. So we were just talking about it. Dawn and I actually met through Instagram somehow. I met all these friends through there. And I remember years ago when I was first widowed, seeing your profile picture. Can you tell everybody what that's about? It's super cute.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was a illustration that was gifted to me from some sweet friends. It's my family with Jesus.
I love it. It's so beautiful. And I love how you've kept it there. And so I can easily recognize that was still you.
I've changed it on Facebook, but
okay.
I don't know. It just never felt right to change it on Instagram.
I love that. Well, I know you have a lot of stuff to share with us, so we're going to get right into it. So let's start. I always love hearing the love stories. Let's start with how you met your late husband and what life was like with him.
Yes. So I met John back in 2007, and it's actually a sweet meeting story. At the time, I worked for a mortgage company, and we were throwing my boss a birthday party, surprise birthday party, and one of my coworkers wanted to hire a band. And so she went online and was Googling local bands and was like, hey, these guys are old. They seem cool. And so we hired this band. They were the Hamptons, and it was John's band that he had with his brother and some other musicians. So he came in to set up for the party and basically never took his eyes off me and wouldn't leave that night without getting my phone number and the promise of a date. And the rest is history.
That's so cute. So when you say they're old, does that mean he was older than you?
He was, yes. Yeah, John was 11 years older than me. So I was 27 at the time, and he was 38.
Okay. And what was like your first date like?
Oh gosh, I don't even remember. I think we went out to dinner. I don't know.
Yes. And when did you know you wanted to marry him?
Oh, it was pretty quick. It was pretty quick. Yeah.
Yes. And I don't even know. I should ask this before. Where do you live? Where are you coming from to us today? I have no idea.
So I'm actually coming from Arizona, which is where I met John, and we lived. And then about a year after our oldest was born, we moved up to North Idaho, the Coeur d'Alene area up in North Idaho, where we had property, and that's where we lived up until the accident. And back here.
So are you originally from Arizona? Is that like where your family is from?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's nice and hot there.
Yes.
This time of year, right? Yes. Very nice. So tell us about the proposal.
Oh, the proposal was horrible. Yeah. It is not a made of movies. Though it really did just provide me the right lessons to teach my daughter, right? It's not about the proposal. It's not even about the wedding. It's about the marriage. And that's what's most important. So I think, he showed up at my work, hey, come down for a minute. And walked downstairs and he had the ring. I'm like, what this now?
This is it.
But
it's
again,
cute. Yeah.
yeah. He, it's not about the proposal. It really isn't.
Right.
And,
It's not about the proposal. That is very true. That's a good thing to remember. If
good romances,
yeah,
are made, right? They're not. It's not about
yes,
this elaborate thing.
exactly. So then, when did you get married?
We got married in 2009. And then I became a stepmom at that point.
Okay.
So he had children already, and so immediately at 29 jumped right into being a blended family.
Wow. And how old were those kids when you got married?
Oh goodness, my math
If
is
you remember,
not going to be
like teenagers or little kids.
9 and 11, and then he had an older son who was already out of the home.
So you started that whole blended family thing. That's a thing I'm just learning right now. So you started that, and were they all living with you, or like with their mom part of the time?
Yeah,
or
the younger two it was half and half.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, and that was in Arizona. Or was that Idaho? I can't remember.
That was still Arizona. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And so what was life like? You get married, you're getting used to blended family. Like, tell us a little bit about what your life was like.
I mean, it was just real life. It was, again, nothing real life, I guess, is the best way to describe it. Yeah. We, in one of our first few dates, we had a hard conversation, obviously with our age difference, of what do we want our lives to look like? And obviously babies were something I wanted. And he didn't want to live in the city. So we made an agreement that we would have babies and I would move out of Arizona. So pretty much right after we got married, we started looking at property out, land, and moved. Well, we made an offer on the house that we ended up buying in Idaho. And the same month that we were closing on the house, I found out I was pregnant. And so I said, oh, I don't want to go anymore.
Yeah.
So we made another agreement, and we agreed to move when the baby was 1 year old, because I wanted a year of just being with my family, with my friends, and just kind of easing into motherhood.
Right.
And so at 13 months old, when Emily was 13 months old, we packed up the truck and we moved to Idaho, and it was the best thing for our family. It was very sweet. It was Idaho is it's a beautiful, when you live in a small town like that with community, and it's a great place to raise kids. Yes.
So when you moved to Idaho, did you stay home with your daughter? Did you work outside the home? What was life like?
I when Emily was born, I quit my job. I was working for a mortgage company at the time, and quit my job, and was just going to be a stay-at-home mom. And then I actually stumbled into network marketing, and I started. I'm a distributor for Young Living, so I started building that business. Yeah, and God blessed me with it, and it just kind of exploded. And after like a year and a half, I was pregnant with our second daughter. And at that point, John and I made the decision for him to stop working and be at home. He wanted to homeschool, and I just couldn't take that on my plate as well. So he stopped working. He was a full-time nurse. He stopped working and just started doing home care here and there when we needed it. And he was a full-time dad as well. So we were basically a stay-at-home family, which was a great blessing for us in the years that we all got together. So we traveled together and homeschooled together and built my business up together, and just did family full-time.
Such a gift, especially now, probably looking back at it, just like what a sweet time of all of you being together. And, that's kind of how I look at COVID, because that was like my last few months with Luke, and the kids were home all the time, even though, I don't want to get into all the COVID stuff, but the point is, like, when you can look back and see there's a time period when you were all together almost all the time, you can see how beautiful that is and what a special gift that is. So he did the homeschooling stuff. That's awesome. So, how old were the kids? Like, so you moved there. Okay, you had Emily, and then how much later until your other daughter was born?
And then Alexis was born in
Alexis.
2014.
Okay. Okay, so that's awesome. And so then you guys are living this life together, which I've been in network marketing for years. I get what a gift it is. When I did Arbonne about 20 some years ago and, replaced my teaching income, was home with the kids. So I totally get what a gift it can be. So I'm so glad you also had that opportunity to do that. So you're living in Idaho. So did you guys have land?
We
Was
did,
it like,
yeah.
oh, I
We
love
have
that.
7 acres. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
that's amazing. Did you have animals or what did you on the land?
So, John actually had this vision, and he, it wasn't until his last year on Earth, but he had started a sheep farm.
Oh,
so
cool.
he was, it was, I just kind of sat back and let him do what he wanted to do. But he had a vision. He wanted to raise sheep and just kind of have, he actually called it the John 10.
I love that.
Lord is our shepherd, and
so cool.
Raising sheep at the time. Yeah, so we had a little donkey that was like the sheep herder, I guess. I'm not sure. I stayed kind of uninvolved.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a sweet thing, and he was teaching the girls, how to care for the animals that way, and it was sweet.
So sounds like it was a really beautiful time in your life. So tell us about the day that your life changed.
It was November 2019, and our family was on our way to church. And we, not even a mile from our house, we hit black ice. And we ended up colliding with like a half-ton truck that was coming the opposite direction. And was all 4 of us were in the vehicle. John died on impact. And our oldest daughter, Emily, she initially, she did not die on impact, but she never regained consciousness. They air flighted her to the local children's hospital, where God provided us the gift of organ donation. So we were able to donate her organs and save some of their lives, which was such a gift in that moment to be able to give to others.
Wow.
Alexis and I were physically unharmed, which is a miracle in itself. And just a blink of an eye, we lost them both.
That is just unimaginable. That's just something that I can't even imagine what that feels like. And it's okay to cry. This is a very safe space to cry. We always say what we feel we can heal. Or actually, I've changed it recently. What we feel God can heal. We can't heal it. God can heal it. So yeah, in an instant, your entire life changed. And you were suddenly widowed and you lost a daughter at the same time. How old was Emily when she passed away?
She was
8. Wow. And how old was Alexis at that time?
5.
Wow. So I'm imagining at the hospital, all this has happened. What are you feeling at that moment?
I've tried so many times to put a word on it that we can understand here on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And the best word I've come up with is supernatural peace.
Wow. God gave you supernatural peace.
I felt his presence in the vehicle. I felt his presence every step of the way. Even in the moments when they were telling me that her injuries were too severe and that she wouldn't recover. In the moments where I was getting so mad, that was when the organ donation people came in. And again, it's just more of a gift, right? Okay, there's purpose here. Yeah, it's a weird, supernatural,
right?
It's a piece that only comes from God.
Right. There's no other way to explain that. No other way to explain that. So, did you have family, friends around you? Did you have good support?
Yes. Yeah. Again, small community, so many. I mean, it's amazing. I had family fly in that were in the hospital with us, that walked through that with us. I mean, the community is just, it's amazing. I mean, if you've ever got the privilege of living in a small town, it's incredible. And so, yeah, the amount of support and help. I mean, again, we had a sheep farm at the time. And,
yeah.
It's like, hey, we're sending these people over. They're going to go take care of that. They're going to take care of this. What do it was everybody. I always say God put the perfect people with the perfect gifts in the perfect space for everything. Everything was just so seamless. It was when you're in that moment, Alexis and I actually were sent to a different hospital than Emily was sent to. And I don't even remember how fast it all went, right? Because you're just in shock. But like, we had friends that went to Emily's hospital before we could get there, so that, and it was just, and I just remember like someone driving me from the one hospital to the other hospital, and people show up with car seat, and you're just like, everything. It just,
yeah.
And, having, I remember like sitting there and I'm like, where's John? Like, I was with Alexis in the ambulance, and then I knew they were keeping me informed of where Emily was going. She was in the helicopter, and I like, wait, where's John? Like,
right.
And it's just this, I don't know. It's just a weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of support and lots of community. And a lot of people loved our family very well.
So I'm sure it was like you're going through this tragedy with your daughter, and naturally you want your husband with you. And so that probably did feel so strange, and like your brain probably couldn't even comprehend it, that he's gone, like, because it wasn't even like a sickness where you're preparing, and then that's still even hard to comprehend, but to just be in an instant, I'm sure that was very, very difficult to walk through. So how long did you and Alexis have to stay in the hospital?
Again, we had no physical injuries,
okay.
So it was just maybe protocol or whatever that they, and because they transported us by ambulance, they had to transport us to the closest hospital, where they life flighted Emily to the children's hospital. Just if you're familiar with the borders up there, she wasn't taken to Spokane, Washington.
Oh yeah, I know exactly where that is.
Yeah, so where we were in Idaho.
Okay.
So, yeah, just they couldn't, they have to take you protocol, I think. But yeah, they just checked us out, made sure we were okay, and then released us. I think it was like hours, but it was
it's probably all a blur because there's so much happening. So you got to go to Emily's hospital. Did you get to say goodbye to her?
Yes. Yeah. I got to be in there. Again, she never regained, she was intubated in the helicopter. So at that point, her injuries were not, she had a head injury from the accident, which just caused too much bleeding, that was fatal.
Right.
But when they, so I did get to go in and be with her. And then at that point, they were, doing all the scans and all the things. And it was, uh, and then the organ donation process, if you've ever had the honor of walking through that with somebody, it takes days, right? So it's
Oh,
a
it
big long
does.
process.
Okay.
So yeah, we were in the hospital for quite a few days with her doing the organ
Okay.
donation. But and then there's a process from that, and it's beautiful the way they honor
Wow.
it. But at the same time, John's at a mortuary,
Right.
in another
Wow.
state. I mean, so there's all these things, responsibilities, I guess, right? Of like,
what are you
how do I
doing?
maneuver all
Yes.
this, and but
So, wow, like most of our listeners, they can relate to the part about the mortuary and the all the arrangements, but we can't relate to what you're in the hospital with your daughter who is dying, trying to deal with that. Like, did you feel a supernatural peace at that time? Was there anger? Like, what was that like?
all of the above.
All of them. I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, there was God, just the right people with the right gifts in the right spaces, everything. It just, I think the hardest moment was when I had to tell Alexis that Emily wasn't going to survive. Because, at that point, she understood that Daddy was gone, but Emily's going to the hospital and she's going to come home, right? And so having to tell her that, it's different.
Yes. And how did she's 5 at the time. How is she processing all of this? Like, how is she reacting?
She's so much still in shock,
Yeah.
We had some beautiful, I'm not sure, this lady, this girl, she was a young girl, in her early 20s, but the grief middle, I don't know what her role was, but she did it beautifully. I'm sure it took a toll on her eventually, but she just, they helped to guide, what to say. And
okay.
In those moments you have to make quick decisions on what is best. And you do the best you can in those situations of, I made the decision that I didn't want Alexis to see Emily in the hospital. I didn't want her to see her in that state. Where they were in the vehicle, in their car seats, she didn't see Emily. So she doesn't have the visual of what it looked like. And so I made that decision to keep it that way. And so I think she was in the hospital for like a day or two with us, but at some point she went home with our close friends. And that was what was best. I made the decision of what was best for her in that. But you just put one foot in front of the other, right? It's just like anything. You're just, and again, we had beautiful people that came and sat with her, and it's just, you just keep leaning onto him.
Yeah, that's literally the only way you can survive. I mean, I don't know how people do without Jesus. I don't know. I mean, I've seen how a lot of them act. They turned all the wrong things. But I can't imagine the depth of the pain of losing someone, or in your case, losing 2 people, and not having Jesus, and just like trying to figure out, or you don't know, you don't believe in eternity, or you don't, whatever. And just, how do you find your peace? Like, I can't imagine that. Right. So they live a really unhappy life, and that is so sad. So I'm wondering, did you do their services together, or how did that all come together?
So we actually, the funeral home that John had been sent to, basically waited for Emily.
Okay.
And then we were able to transfer her body over there as well after the organ donation surgery. And so then we actually had two services. We had an Idaho service.
Okay.
And then like a week or two after that, we had an Arizona service as well. Being us both from Arizona.
Right.
That was, I mean, I think we had 300 or 400 people at the Idaho service and about 300 or 400 people at the Arizona service.
Oh my goodness.
mean, it's just, that's where both John and I lived and grew up, and a majority of our family was there. And so we had two services.
Right.
And had them. Yeah. And you know, I hate the word services. We had celebrations of life.
Celebration life. I like that too. Yeah.
And we did
Me
that.
too. That's what we did. Mm-hmm.
We required bright colors, and you know, we did beautiful things to honor them together.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah. We had two for Luke. So we had, and there was definitely a difference. We had the graveside service where he was buried, and it was definitely way sadder. It was something, you know, we did quickly. And then because of COVID, we had to wait like 3 months. And then we did a celebration of life. And I could tell a massive difference because so he was a big Oregon Duck fan. And so it was like, wear Oregon Duck clothes. And it was just more of a celebration. All these people sharing funny stories that I'd never heard. And just, so I get it. Like, I love that part of it. Celebrating their life rather than focusing on their gone. And it sounds like you did a great job of doing that and doing it in two places. And I know for me, that was something that gave me purpose, like having those to look forward to and seeing all the people. For me, it hit me the hardest when all of that was done. What about you? After you do both the services, you come home, you and Alexis come home. What was life like then?
So our story, again, is so unique. I, being at Winter in Idaho, and I didn't want to stay. So I decided pretty quickly that we were going to pack a suitcase and go. So we planned the Idaho services, and then literally packed multiple suitcases and came home, and we stayed with my folks. And you know, I had to drive again. I hadn't drove yet. You know,
I'm sure that was really hard. Yeah.
I mean, we literally locked the door. I mean, we had a farm, right? So we like, who can gift, you know, who can we gift these animals to? Come and pick them up. Like,
oh, wow. You're just ready to go. Yeah.
One of our dogs, our friends fostered him. He's a big, huge St. Bernard. So at the time, they were like, he can stay with us, like, just get on a plane, go. So we literally locked the doors, and we had friends come in and winterize the house, and that was it. We got on a plane, and this is December of 2019, and we were like, okay, let's figure out what this looks like. And as we all know what happened in March of 2020, mm-hmm. Everything changed. So our plan was to go back to Idaho, you know, when the snow was gone, and figure out what that looks like. And, you know, the world decided differently for us. Yeah. I decided pretty early on in that I didn't want to go back to Idaho full time. But I wasn't yet like, I'm done here, because there was so much community there. And truthfully, it's the only home Emily ever knew. Yeah. And I thankfully had with the way my business ran, I didn't have to live anywhere, right? So
yeah, exactly. That's the beauty of it.
We bought a house in Arizona and built a house, and so we moved into that in November of 2020. We did go back to Idaho in May of 2020, and we spent 2 months there. And it was a bittersweet time. of
Mhm.
being alone with Alexis. But it was a lot of healing of what comes next.
Yeah.
And when I left Idaho that time, it wasn't, I felt a lot more sure of what I needed to start my rebuild, right? Because I lost everything, and when you don't know what to do, you just do the next right thing.
Yeah.
And so we came back in August of 2020, and I enrolled Alexis in school. She started kindergarten. Again, she had started kindergarten with homeschooling with Daddy, but
Yeah.
put her into school. We closed on our house a couple months later, and we just put one foot in front of the other and figured it out. What is life going to look like now? And
Yeah.
we've been able to retain the Idaho property. We go back every summer.
Oh,
And
nice.
it's become a haven for us.
Yeah.
A sweet place to live in those memories with them and welcome new people, and a great community there, and it's just a very sweet way to include them still, even though
I
they're
love
no longer
that.
here on Earth. They're still part of our story.
Yeah. Wow. So, what are some things that helped you along the way with your healing? Right after you're dealing with two massive losses. And I mean, were there people, were there programs, books, songs, verses, like anything that helped you?
I dove into a lot of reading. Still do a ton
Yes.
of reading. Time.
Mm,
I mean, I don't know how many sleepless nights I had where I
I'm sure.
just lay there and talk to him, and it is the deepest surrender you will ever do in your life, to plead with your Heavenly Father to get you through to the next day. And the community that he provided, again, continued, of the right people with the right gifts in the right space. Lots of online community. This was right in the year 2020. So
Yeah.
social media is just so beautiful, right? I mean, it gets
We
such a
wouldn't be
bad
here.
rap,
Yeah.
but for goodness, there are so many people out there that that have gone through it, or that are just behind you.
Yep.
Right. And it's just a beautiful thing to to sit in that space with strangers. And
Yeah.
I actually have a really sweet friend. We had known each other from the past, but we got reconnected through a mutual friend, and she had lost her husband in just 10 months before me. And just honestly, we would just FaceTime in the middle of the night, just being there for each other. It's, finding just fellow sisters that will just sit there with you and show up for the hard. It really does just get you through. Writing became,
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
just journaling. I remember the first post I made on social media. I mean, not even the announcement post, but just the post I made shortly after that, and then it just became an outlet for me to journal publicly.
Yeah.
And then I think the feedback that I would get from not only people I knew that didn't know Jesus, but strangers, and they weren't strangers. They were never meant to be strangers, right? But this was the connection. So I just found a lot of healing in that. And my daughter, I mean, Alexis she was my light. She was, and figuring out how to parent her through all of this. And
Right.
it was the, and all she had left.
Yeah.
And that I was handpicked to be her mom. And,
Yep.
This isn't how I would have wrote our story, but I got,
Right.
she kept me alive.
Mm-hmm. Were there nights where you didn't sleep and you're just asking God why? Like, why? Did you have that? I mean, everybody deals with it differently.
Yeah, it was more of a scream.
Yeah, I would guess.
Yeah.
Just like, why? This isn't fair. I mean,
Yeah.
why do I have to lose two people at once? I'm sure that was
Definitely.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. So you moved back to Arizona, and did you already have a community since you used to live in Arizona? Like a good community?
Yes.
Okay, great.
I'm so glad. Growing up here, I still have the same circle of girlfriends that
I love it.
I had when I, in grade school. So yes, very, very
so
loving,
awesome.
wonderful community of people, and just again, people that show up and that will sit with you in space and whatever you need from them.
Yes. So you moved back. Did you still get to just work your Young Living business, or did you have to get another job too, or what was life like when you came back?
No, Young Living network marketing is such a blessing.
It is.
It gave us the gift of freedom, of time, and it provided me what, I call it my bereavement leave. My team just kind of carried on.
That's awesome.
In my place. And, it's the company itself is just treats you like family. And so, I was able to really take a bereavement leave.
That's
it's only
awesome.
been maybe in the last year that I've even dove back in to really working and building my business. But I got to do it when I was ready. I get to do it how I want to do it.
Exactly.
It's such a beautiful gift of that type of business.
Definitely such a gift.
Yeah.
So, when did you start being open to dating again, and what was that like?
I had a dream. It was right after we had gotten back from Idaho that first summer, when I was like, okay, this is, how do I rebuild this life, right? And there was a man in the dream. It wasn't John, and it wasn't who now that I'm remarried, it wasn't even. It was just a male.
Okay.
And I just remember feeling a comfort that I wasn't alone. And I don't know. I knew it was a male, but I didn't know what it was. Right? Those dreams that are just like, what are you trying to tell me here, God? And it was just a comforting, you're on the right track kind of thing. Just, you got this, right? You're not alone here.
Yeah.
And it was a few months after that, I dabbled in dating. Probably do a whole other podcast on dating after loss, because it is such a complex thing.
Oh, yes. It's like our most popular episodes are about dating.
Oh,
People want to know.
I'm sure. Yeah. But I would say at the beginning I dated for attention. I was lonely,
Yeah,
and
I get it.
When I was ready to date with intention, is literally almost immediately I met Travis, who I'm now married to.
Okay.
And God definitely set that one aside for me.
Yeah, tell us about meeting him and what that was like and how you met him and all that.
We actually met on Bumble.
Okay,
So
cool.
Don't give up on the dating apps.
Yeah.
Whoever's listening to this.
Yep, I've heard good stories.
But we actually are connected in so many ways that it's almost more amazing that we never met in the past.
Mm-hmm.
My college roommate and his college roommate are married now.
What? That's crazy.
My college, my boyfriend from college and him were buddies when we were
What?
dating. Like,
Okay, yeah, that's crazy.
it just, we never
Yeah.
passed. He went to a close high school to me and knew a bunch of the girls I knew, or all the guys I went to high school with were his friends,
Wow.
and so many weird yeah, it's so sweet now, even like running into people, they're like, oh, I remember you, like, and
Yeah.
it's almost more weird that we never met, but
Mhm.
God had set us aside just for his perfect timing.
Yes. So you met on Bumble, and what was it like? Did you have any grief when you first started dating? What was this process like for you?
I think I'd already kind of processed through all of that.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, I was ready,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I think, my story's so unique that
Mhm.
it's not just, oh, I have this man I loved, right?
Mhm.
But I have a child that I lost, and
Right.
their loss is so connected
Yeah.
that it is impossible to feel one without the other. And that's for me, and then also for Alexis, right? It's like our Idaho home. It's like this great analogy of it, right? Like, this is our world, and it's our family. So I didn't just lose my husband. I didn't just lose my child. Alexis didn't just lose her dad or just lose a sister. Like, we lost our family. And so, and then, over the years, we became our own little unit. And so it's opening that up and letting other people into that and letting our family grow. And, I talking to men and going on dates, and like, people are awkward. People are weird, right? People don't really know. Like, I could probably write a book on all like the awkward, weird things that people do.
Yes.
But it's one thing but take all that with a widow and now take it with somebody who's lost a child.
Yeah,
And
I'm sure.
It takes a lot. I knew, and God kept showing me, like, it's going to take a very special man to pull up a seat to this table. And Travis just did it beautifully. And from our very first conversation, he just did it beautifully. And he just, pulled up a chair, was willing to sit it there. And not only that, he brought 2 daughters into it too. And, it just, he handles our grief and all that it brings in this perfect way, that I'm sure you can relate. Like, it just takes a special person to enter into that space. It takes a very humble person, very it's very special.
Yes, and I'm imagining that he respects, like, you hear the horror stories, people can't handle it. You talk about your late spouse and you have pictures. Like, I'm sure he's so good about that, right? Like,
yeah, and I knew that right away, right? It was it's how we asked for stories, and
I love it.
It's just very it's just he was made to be this person.
And so, when did you guys? Well, let's hear about the proposal. This one. How is this proposal? Magical.
Well, again,
It's not about the proposal. But I'm just curious.
It's never about the proposal, but in talking through it, there's nothing Travis and I did that wasn't intentionally talked about to all ends, right? I mean, that's the key in all strong relationships, communication. But it was what's important, and it was important that it was a family affair, right?
Oh, I love that.
With Alexis being a part of it, and so that was all that really was important. So yeah, it was. He took Alexis and his youngest daughter, and showed them the ring.
Oh, I love it.
So and she was there, and It
That's
was just, you know,
beautiful.
it's just that was what was important of including Alexis into it.
I
And his
love
daughters
that. That
were
is
like,
beautiful.
"Yes, Dad, snag her, quick, lock that down, Dad. Like, don't
That's
let this
cute.
one get away." But with Alexis, you know, it's a delicate way, and
Yeah.
yeah, he's always handled it very delicately and beautifully.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. And then when did you get married and what was that like?
Yeah, so we again kind of making it a family affair. We kind of let all the three girls kind of help us plan it. So we did just a small courthouse ceremony, just the five of us, and Alexis really wanted family photos, something
Oh,
that
sweet.
we hadn't done obviously since
Yeah.
the accident, and it was never. It took us. I can't even tell you how long it took for me to just take a picture of me and her. Right? I mean, just a picture. I mean,
Yeah.
I have very few pictures of us in those first dark days
Yeah.
of our faces, at least. But she really wanted family photos. So we did family photos and went to the courthouse. And then a few months after that, we planned a big celebration. And we had kind of a destination thing. We had like 60 people come, and our
Nice.
friends just kind of put it all together for us. And it was really sweet. So
That's beautiful. And what year was that you got married?
we got married in, where is it now? 2024. We
Yeah.
got married in, our courthouse was December of 2022.
Okay.
Yes. And then the celebration party was a few months out.
Okay, so you're actually pretty close to when I got married because I got married March 18th, 23. So like
Okay.
4
Yeah.
months or
So-
something, about around
Yeah.
the same time. And what has it been like being married again?
You know, it's such a different space. I'm sure that you can relate.
Mm-hmm.
When you've lost a partner, it changes you.
Yeah, it does.
I'm a very different wife to Travis than I was to John. I always laugh and tell him, you know, John got me prepped for you, I guess.
Yeah, that's funny.
I can't, you know, I mean, you just, especially when you're, I mean, young, age alone, but you're just, the small things just really don't matter.
Exactly.
And you just, I mean, I find joy in picking up your dirty socks. Not,
right.
You know, I'm not going to start
Not
a fight
complaining.
over it, right?
Exactly.
And it's, you know, it just makes you appreciate what you have, right? And I think when I speak to like my friends, you know, who maybe are going through a marital issue or whatever, it's like, what if they were gone tomorrow?
Exactly.
Does it really matter? Like,
so good.
And that's just how we kind of live every day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got to figure this out, communicate, and blending a family is. I mean,
yeah.
I think I had some experience because I married a man who had older kids, but like it's so different when you're a parent yourself, and they're all in the home, and I mean, very different, you know, things, and very different personalities, very different upbringings, you know, and you have to be so grace filled and just, you know, it teaches me a lot. And it then allows me to teach Alexis a lot. Yeah, it's just, you know, figure it out. But, you know, you just don't take the little things for granted.
Exactly.
It's so cliche until you there.
Yeah.
And,
exactly. Yeah. Like that's one of the first things when Joel and I were dating that he was like, I love that about you. Like you appreciate every little thing and you don't let these things bother you. And, you know, so I'm like, there's something special about love after loss. Like you just appreciate everything so much more. And it's just like, yeah, none of the little stuff matters. I would say, yeah, I'm probably a different wife too. Definitely than I was when I was 24 when I got married and all that stuff. So I do feel like, well, Luke and I had a lot of heavy stuff because he was sick almost our whole marriage. So we were dealing with heavier things and we had like toddlers and babies. I feel like
Yeah.
I'm a lot more lighthearted with Joel. Like it's just a lot more, I don't know. We have a different relationship, I think, because of circumstances too. Like it's just a whole different world now than it was back then when we were dealing with sickness and all of that stuff. So is Alexis 10 now? Is that right? I'm just trying to
She
do
actually
the math.
turns 10 next week.
Oh, next week. That's
Yeah.
exciting. And what about the other girls? How old are they? The two of your husbands?
So Michaela is 21
Okay,
and
so
then
older.
Kennedy is 16.
Okay. Oh, that's awesome. And you are in Arizona and yeah, living the life with your husband. Now I can imagine there are some really hard days because as a widow, there's a lot of hard grief days. For me personally, it's our would-be anniversary day. That is the hardest for me because I feel like nobody remembers it and it's just like your own special thing. But I imagine as someone who's lost a child, there are a lot of other hard days for you. What are some of the hardest days for you and how do you deal with them? You know, that kind of thing.
I think it's actually more the anticipation of the hard days.
I've heard that so much.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, every year it changes. There's obviously the accident anniversary.
Oh yeah.
And that's hard because it's not just one moment, right? So the day of the accident, but then that's John's death day anniversary. I don't know what to call that.
Deathversary. I don't know. There's
the anniversary of the day he got to meet Jesus.
Yeah, that's better. I like that better.
And then with Emily's organ donation, it's a week, right? So it's this week of just ache in my bones, right?
Oh, I'm sure.
And the trauma that comes. And actually, so it would have been the second year. I had met Travis just 2 weeks before that.
Okay.
And we hadn't even, when you're single parents, you don't always get to like have that first in-person date as quickly as you want, right? So when we were first dating, we had FaceTime dates.
Right.
And then, we had, before we met in person, and then we were supposed to have a second in-person date, and then his kid got sick. It's all these things. And so much of our first 2 weeks was just FaceTiming. I mean, we clocked 34 hours of FaceTiming before our third in-person date.
Oh, that's sweet. Yeah.
But a week of that was the anniversary.
Oh, wow.
And so it was actually sweet the way he walked through it with me every day. And again, just sitting in that space with me, just re-solidified, how he was the person for me. So it's every year preparing for that, and it's right around Thanksgiving, so that's always more challenging on top of that. There's Emily's birthday, there's John's birthday,
right? There's a lot.
There's our anniversary. There's so many. I just try to celebrate their lives. And Travis just gives me the space to do whatever I'm feeling led to do. And sometimes that's I just want to do something with Alexis. Sometimes that's I want us. Sometimes I want to just get a distraction. Sometimes I want this. He just kind of lets me lead through it all. He's he can read people very well, and he usually can even see things like from Alexis's demeanor before I see it.
Wow.
And so that's special too. So he'll see things that even I'm not even aware that it's happening. Like Alexis just had a moment where recently where she was like, Mom, like, I'm turning 10. Like, that means I'm going to be without Daddy and Emily longer than I have them.
Oh,
and like
wow.
that math of
Yeah.
and like, it's just, those kind of little things where you just gotta sit in space with them.
Yeah. What has been the most challenging thing about being widowed?
That was one of your questions. I would say the acceptance.
Oh, yeah.
This is not the life that we thought we would be living. It's not the childhood we thought our kids would have. Like, it's not the future we thought we'd have. And I think a lot of people get stuck in the you gotta shift. And it's okay to shift.
Yeah.
Accepting that this is now your life and you gotta figure it out doesn't take away from what you lost. And I think a lot of people get stuck of like, they can't move forward. They can't.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you got to rebuild. Like, my rebuild was different, but everybody has to rebuild. And
Right.
you've got to figure out how you're going to do life without that person.
It's good.
Or what are you going to do? Not live. Like,
you don't have a
right?
choice. Like, yeah.
Yeah. You don't have a choice. This isn't
Right.
what you picked. This isn't how you would have wrote the story, but this is the story of your life. So
yeah.
What are you going to, and it's really an honoring of who you lost. Like, I couldn't even tell you all of like the weird God ordained conversations that John and I had, like, that are just creepy, but like, God was preparing me all along, right? And he knew the story. He already knew the end of the story. And he knows the end of the story that I'm still living. And so I just have to trust that he's in control and accept that this is what he's asked me to endure.
Right.
And do it well and give glory to him and just keep going. So accepting, I think, is the most challenging.
Yeah, that's really good. And that kind of ties into the next question. What advice would you give to a new widow?
A whole other podcast.
Yeah, right? A whole podcast on that.
I would say most definitely find your community. Find your community and be willing to give grace to the people that aren't able to stick around. That's okay. It's okay. Grief makes people uncomfortable.
It does.
And sometimes when they can't understand, it's just easier for them, and that's okay. It's okay. God has somebody else waiting to help to sit in the space with you. But find a community and lean on your community. And I think the best advice, this is specific to somebody who's a parent of young children, right? Not specifically older children, because I think that's, when you have an adult child, it's a little different. But if you still have children of the home that you are parenting, going, like, you're showing them in your actions how to deal with really hard things. Like, this is, you hope and pray that this is the worst that they will ever experience, but it's probably not, right? Like, they're going to continue to have suffering in their life, and they're learning how to deal with it.
Right.
Too young.
Yeah.
You were hand selected by a God who loves you more than anything and loves your children more than you. If that's even possible to fathom.
Right.
He picked you to parent them through this, and
Yeah.
you have to do it for them. Like, you have to keep going. You have to do the hard work to heal yourself. You have to like give yourself all the grace and just trust your decisions are right, even if you seek wise counsel. Like, if you're like, I don't know what to do with X, Y, and Z, like, seek wise counsel, but know that like you are doing the best you can, and you're doing something you've never done before. Like, this is not what you signed up for, right?
No.
Like, you didn't like, parenting as a widow it is forever challenging, or it adds another level of challenging, right?
Yes.
Parenting overall, but just they're watching you, and
so good.
They are learning, and just trust your gut.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're like somebody who always makes bad decisions in life, and you're like, I don't trust my decisions, then seek wise counsel and get help.
Yeah.
But if you can feel confident, you've never done this before, but you are equipped and you can do this, and they are watching you, and like, just you gotta you're teaching them.
That's so good.
I made that promise to Alexis. She was probably asleep when I was praying over her and saying this, but I remember very early on, just, this will not, this is your story. This is our story, but this will not, I never wanted her to be bitter. I never wanted her to be mad at God. I never wanted her to feel a victim of her circumstances. I never wanted her to feel scared to love.
Yeah.
Because people we love die. And it's horrible, but still love, right? Like, still love. And
so good.
Yeah.
That's so good. No one's given that advice before. I love it. It's really good. And I appreciate all of your wisdom. You have a lot of wisdom, and I appreciate that you have let God make something beautiful out of tragedy. Just the life that you're living, the organs that were donated from your daughter, like, just so many gifts. Did you ever get to meet any of the people the organs were donated to, or is that just in movies? I don't know for sure. Like,
I have connected with them. Yes, I have. It took a few years, and the companies, they do it very beautifully, right? Where they kind of are this middle person, because, are you ready? Are they ready? And, again, God just orchestrated it beautifully. Like, I was like feeling ready, and then they contacted me that I had a letter from one of the receivers. Wow. Did I want it? And then at that point, it spurred me to reach out to the rest of them. And I think I've been able to connect with everyone.
Wow.
I mean, one day it'd be wonderful to meet in person.
Right.
Obviously states, some of them are in Oregon and Washington, and but it's the best, the most like life-giving thing was looking back, the sweet girl that received Emily's heart.
Wow.
Looking back through it was her grandma's social media, going back to the dates, and they at that point they didn't know our names, they didn't know our story, they didn't know anything until I shared it with them. But them praying over it, right? It was this connection, this beautiful connection. Organ donation is it's such a gift. It's a gift of life, right? It's just a beautiful, and it's a way that not only Emily continues on, but John and I's love, right? We created this beautiful child,
so beautiful, right?
And she lives on. These organ donations.
It's so beautiful.
Families, it connects everybody. It's very sweet.
Yes, definitely. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story today. I know it's going to touch so many people in all over the world. We're in like over 85 countries. So it's going to literally go into all the world. And I really appreciate it. And I love to close in prayer. I'm going to pray for you and pray for our listeners. So, God, I just thank you for Dawn. Thank you for her life. And thank you that you know the plans for her life and that she has embraced you in this really difficult time. Thank you for blessing her with Travis and their life together. And I continue to pray for, want to pray for continued blessings over their family. I pray for peace. I pray for Alexis as she continues to heal from this tragedy that's happened to her in her life, and that she will also draw close to you. And I just pray just for them as they continue on. And I just thank you so much that Dawn and I connected on social media, and that you're going to use this story to do things that we'll probably never even know about. But we thank you for giving us the peace that passes all understanding. And I pray for every listener today, wherever they are, in their car, running, working, whatever they're doing, God, that you will just pour your peace all over their body from their head to their toes, that they will feel your supernatural peace, and that you will draw them closer to you. And you say that you are close to the brokenhearted and crushed in spirit. And so I just pray that you meet every listener where they're at, and just thank you that they're here today. It's not on accident. And we just thank you for all you've done. Amen. Well, if you guys like this podcast, give it a little bing, 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen. And please join our Widowed Too Soon community. Dawn, I'll have to find you on Facebook, and you could join this if you want. It's been super good. We used to have a couple hundred, now we're up to like 350. And what I love about the community page, if you're not part of it, is people are sharing, and then people are coming in, and like even before I have time, like, I'm praying for you. Thanks for sharing this. And I actually do go through and approve each person, trying to figure out if they're widowed. Now, there has been a few that have slipped through, and then we just get rid of them once they're reported that they're not really widowed. But our other page is just like where I can post, but no one else can post. So this is the one I'm really talking about to everyone. If you just search for Widowed Too Soon community, you can find it. And I also put a link in the show notes so that you can go to that and be part of this supportive community. If you would like to be a guest, there is also a link in the show notes. We'd love to have you, because every person's story is unique, and you can help someone that I can't help, and you can reach more people. And so together we'll be reaching all kinds of people all over the world. So thanks again for being here. And thank you, Dawn, so much. And we will see you next time. Thank you.
Thanks
Bye.
for having me, Michelle. It was such an honor.
Yes,
So
thank
much.
you.
Thanks for listening to Widowed Too Soon with Michelle Bader Ebersol. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe, rate and review. And we'd also love for you to join our Widowed Too Soon community on Facebook. See you next time.